So hello everyone, and thank you for joining us for our CV resume writing webinar. It is my pleasure to welcome today's speaker, Charlotte Anyango Ongaganga. She holds a PhD in linguistics. Currently, she serves as a career development specialist for PhD students. The expertise she has is applied to a wide variety of areas, including resume and CV writing, networking, interview tips, job search strategies, and communication at workplace. Charlotte has been teaching linguistics and providing career guidance at higher education institutions for over 12 years. In her current position, she facilitates career development workshops at the University of Calgary. Charlotte, so it's our pleasure to have you today with us. So before you start, please write your questions in the chat, or you can ask the questions after the presentation. So Charlotte, you can start.
Thank you so much, Rima. And I've been curious, how do you pronounce your last name?
Šiaučiūnaitė. So I am also writing a little bit different. So it's a little bit complicated in it's not just in Canada, everywhere I have complications with my family name. So at least I have a very easy first name.
Šiaučiūnaitė.
Šiaučiūnaitė. So I'm from Lithuania.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that. And thank you for the introduction. And I am wondering if it's okay if I did my land acknowledgement.
Yes.
Since I'm coming to you from Calgary right now, I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the traditional territories of the people of the Treaty 7 region in southern Alberta, which includes the Blackfoot Confederacy, comprising the Siksika, Piikani, and Kainai First Nations, as well as the Tsuut'ina First Nation and the Stoney Nakoda, including the Chineke, Bearspaw, and Wesley First Nations. The city of Calgary, where I am right now, is also home to Métis Nation of Alberta Region 3. So you've done an amazing job with my introduction, and you did very well with my name, my surname that is, because sometimes when people see apostrophes, they shy away. And I just wanted to add that, you know, I am also an author. So my book has been published to support newcomers to Canada find jobs. So I've shared trends, I've shared recommendations, and everything is in there. So it's something that I'm so proud of. It's a project I started in February, and I'm glad I'm done with it.
Congratulations.
Okay. Thank you so much. So as we begin, today I'm going to be doing something a little different. I felt like instead of just having presentation on CVs and resumes, maybe I should just go straight into the questions that you sent me. And I'm going to try for the whole of this 1 hour to respond to each and every one of those questions. And if you have any other questions, please put them on the chat box. If we have time, I will go on to them. If we don't, it's okay to link up with me on LinkedIn, and I can support you in whatever way you'd wish to be supported. Now, before I begin again, I just want to check the temperature of the room. So if you can use some emojis to describe how you're feeling right now, would be really nice. I'm going to share mine too. So it can be 1 emoji, it can be 3 or 5, just to describe your feelings right now. That would be really amazing. So I'm just sharing mine too. I think mine could be maybe 2 of these should be fine. So that's me there. If everyone else can give us emojis. Oh, I see on your photos there as well. That's amazing. I was looking at the chat box and missing out on what's happening on this other side. Great. Okay. So as more people are sharing how they're feeling, I'll just go into the questions directly. So we have our question number 1 there. CVs, resumes. Now, before I even start answering this question, I just want to check if everyone understands the difference between a resume and a CV so that I know where to start from. Do we have anyone? Oh, look, the chat box is busy there. That's amazing. Thank you, guys. Now, do you all understand the differences between CV and resume? You can just put a yes or a no so that I see if I have to start from there. Amazing. I'm seeing a yes. Yes. Okay. So, okay, we have a no. So there are so many differences between CVs and resumes. And I think this is a very interesting something to talk about because especially for international students, in different countries, you know, depending on where you're coming from, if you're an international student especially, CVs might be used interchangeably as resumes. But in Canada, we like to separate the two documents. So let's begin with what a CV is. So a curriculum vitae is the document that you want to use for applications in academia. But you can also use them for some government applications, some research applications. Something that stands out about a CV is the detail in it. It is more detailed, so that means you are going to spend some time just describing some of these details that are required for the job. It is also the document that will take more information. So when I talk about more information, we have publications and conferences, and we have awards and scholarships and you know, all those good stuff that you've been achieving in your academic life and professional life. So CVs are more detailed, so that makes them a little longer compared to what a resume is. But something else about a CV is people think that you can just put everything on a CV and send it. A CV still needs to be targeted, just like a resume. So if you're applying for a job in academia, you want to look at the focus of that job. Is it going to be research intensive or is it going to be teaching intensive? So if it is teaching intensive, you want to focus more on demonstrating your teaching skills and your teaching experiences. If it is research intensive, you want to focus your energy on demonstrating that research experience you've gathered or research experiences that you've gathered. So you want to still remain targeted even on a CV. So it's not going to be a document where you use as a hoarding room where everything is thrown in there, then the CV becomes 7 pages, 16 pages, because people think that a CV can just be bottomless. You know, it can be as many pages as you want. A good CV is targeted. Now, if you have been in research for a long time and you have many publications, and I see a lot of publications, some people have 30 publications, you know. Now, if you put all the 30 publications in your document, that's a book. That's a book. It's not a CV anymore. It's something somebody needs to sit on a couch on a weekend with a bookmark to read. So you don't want to turn a CV into something that might not be read by the person that needs to read it. So you want to target. So my advice would be, you want to even look at your research projects and target it. If you're going to be looking for a job in policy analysis and the government is asking for either a CV or a resume, I would say give a CV because it gives more information, but you also want to target your publications for that specific job. So that will help you to trim down on the publication so that instead of presenting all the 30, you're going to pick the ones that you think speak the language of the job application. Now, just like a resume, a CV also has a master CV where you can now load everything. The master document is yours to keep. And then the targeted document is the one you use to send to the recruiters out there. Now, let's talk about a resume. A resume is brief. It is a brief information about your skills, about your experiences, about your education. A good resume should have a maximum of 2 pages. 1 page is great, 2 pages is great, 1.5 is great. I've seen people who force a 2-page document into one document so that they make it one page. So they are forcing 2 pages into 1 page, and they stretch the margins thin. What they don't know is those margins are a place for the reader's eyes to rest. When you stretch your margins thin because you're forcing 2 pages into 1 page, what you're doing is you're making your document look too dense. So when somebody looks at it, it is too busy. They don't even know how to start reading it. So I would say respect those margins, and it is okay to move things to the following page if you have to move things to the next page. Now, the people that ask for resumes are very intentional about it. They do not have the luxury of time to flip through pages. So that's why you want to make it brief, concise, and targeted. Now, if you compare to jobs in academia where deadlines are approaching December 1st, most of the deadlines are done for jobs that will start next year in fall. So it means that the hiring team has a good chunk of months to go through your documents. They look at your teaching dossier, they look at your research statement and statement of interest, or all those statements, whether it is a diversity statement and all those things. So it's a bulky documents that you're going to submit. They have the time to flip page after page and look at it. Now, those that ask for resumes do not have that time. They want to look at it very quickly, understand what you are looking for, understand your skills, and then be able to invite you for an interview in 3 days or 1 week or 2 weeks or something like that. So make sure that your resume, because it's still gonna be short, make sure it is really touching on the points that the recruiter needs to see, or the ATS needs to see. The ATS is the automated tracking system that most organizations use. So you want to make sure that you are targeting everything. So by targeting, that means you're going to be working hand in hand with a job posting, looking at the words that they have used and incorporating those words into your document. Now let's begin with question number 1, CV, resume, and cover letter. And I just posted it the way I was given. So CV, resume, and cover letter should not be redundant. So we should not simply repeat the contents of the CV in the cover letter. There will be request in cover letter to summarize the qualifications for the position. So how should this be written? Now, let me start with the first portion. Do not repeat information from your resume onto your cover letter per se. Let me use the word per se because depending on how you package information. Now, let me say this about cover letters and resumes. A resume and also a CV is all about you. It addresses, your skills, your qualifications, your education, your professional experiences, everything about you. So the resume is talking about you. The cover letter, on the other hand, is about the company. And when you understand that concept, it helps you to write the right cover letter. The cover letter is about the company and it is not about you anymore. So how do you make the cover letter about the company? Because sometimes I see people bring 2-page cover letters about themselves, and they also present a resume about themselves. So everything is just me, I, me. It's just too much. So you want to start with addressing the cover letter for the company. The first thing I would say is always try and get a name for your cover letter. It might be difficult, but if you can get a name, it would be nice. So that instead of saying, dear hiring manager, you're going to say, dear Jane Clark. And when Jane Clark receives that letter, she treats it as, this is my personal letter. Instead of hiring manager, which is a position, it's not a person. Now, I would say, if you can't get a hold of the name, it is okay to call the company and say, hey, I'm interested in this job and I need a name for my cover letter. If they can give you the name, that would be nice. Put it on your cover letter. Number 2, you want to address, or you want to demonstrate the skills they are looking for from the job posting. So you can say something like, this position excites me because I have the following skills that you're looking for this position. And then you tell them those skills. It's about the company, it's not about you. Now, the other thing you can do to change that cover letter from being about you to being about the company is the second paragraph. My ideal letter has 3 paragraphs, very light, fluffy letter. I don't like heavy, dense, busy letters. Now, the second paragraph dedicated to the company. Talk about what the company does and how that is important to you and why you are dedicated or motivated, why you are motivated to work for that company. So second paragraph is somewhere where you want to really talk about that company. So I see so many people that write cover letters, they just talk about themselves from the word go, it's just me, I have this, I did that, I have that, the whole time. So you want to make sure that the second paragraph you're dedicating to the company, talk about the business that they do, if they were news the other day, especially if it was a good thing that happened to them, if they received some fundings, maybe they won an award, and why it is important for you to join that team. So you want to really convince them. A good second paragraph will answer the question, why do you want to work for us? Which is one of those common questions they ask during interviews. Then the third paragraph is closure. Ask for an interview. And you're not going to be too direct and say, hey guys, can we now have an interview? No, you're going to say something like, I'm looking forward to meeting with you and discussing more about my skills, you know. So a good third paragraph can be 2 lines, and you don't have to repeat. If you want to talk to me, email me, this is my email, this is my number. Once you put everything at the top of your document, that's it. They will locate it. So that is something that I thought I should mention about cover letters. So yes, you do not have to go through the entire document on your cover letter. I always say, think about a cover letter as a movie preview. If people watched 90% of a movie on the preview, they will not pay to go watch it. So that's why they just give you a few scenes to whet your appetite so that you pay and go watch that movie. So you want to do that with your cover letter as well. Let's keep going. Is there any specific information that should be included on a CV or resume? And is there any information that should be left out? Now, I won't treat CV or resume as the same document. So for the CV or resume, I would say target the information. Target the information from the job posting. So whether you're working on a CV or you're working on a resume, have the job posting there with you so that you make sure that you're checking each requirement that they have placed on the job posting. Now, that also means there's no one document you can use to apply for all the jobs. I've seen somebody who came here and said, last week I made 60 applications, and I said, wow, how did you manage to target 60 resumes? You know. And the person said, no, I just have this standard resume. So I have a resume for customer service. I have a resume for this and that. I said, no, every job posting is different and every application should address the job posting. So it's not a matter of, oh, let me have a customer service resume. Let me have this type of resume. No. You're going to be looking at the job posting, and that is what you're going to use as a guideline for creating your resumes and cover letter. Okay. What is the biggest CV or resume mistake? I've said it. Using one document to apply for many jobs. That's a very dangerous thing to do. You want to make sure that for every job posting, you have a unique document for it. In fact, I always say if you are actively searching for a job, it is safe to have a folder on your desktop for job search. Inside that folder, you put company names on each folder. You name your folders with company names so that you have TD applications. When you go into TD application, you find the job posting, always copy it and paste it somewhere, because when they start interviews, those things disappear. So have that job posting somewhere, have the resume that you used to apply for that job. It will really help you when you're preparing for an interview. On that same folder, you want to have information about that company. It helps when you're preparing for interviews. And by the way, sometimes you apply for a job and you're invited for an interview 3 months later. At that point, you've even forgotten, you don't remember the resume you used for the application, you can't remember the job posting details. So always keep those things, and you can even have a spreadsheet where you track all your applications. Okay, let's keep going. And if you have a question, it's okay to put it on the chat box. I'm actually monitoring on my other screen. What are keywords and how to use them in your CV or resume? Now, there's a difference between keywords and buzzwords. Now, buzzwords are those tiring words that recruiters do not want to hear anymore because they are vague. For example, hardworking, passionate. You can't measure passion. Now, sometimes people use these words and then it really makes your document feel fake, you know. So you want to avoid buzzwords and you want to work with keywords. Now, keywords are some of those words that you can actually see from a job posting if they are used several times. Sometimes you look at a job posting and you realize there's a lot of team collaboration. It tells you that this one is going to be a keyword. Now, keywords are very important to include on your document because when you're applying for a job, especially for the ATS is the software that scans through our documents when we apply for jobs. Now, that ATS is an artificial intelligence software. It uses keywords. And you want to make sure that your document is keyword rich. So you want to separate buzzwords from keywords. Sometimes job postings do have buzzwords as well. So it doesn't mean that if you see buzzwords on the job posting, you're going to bring those buzzwords onto your document. Sometimes job postings have words like must be hardworking, passionate, and dedicated. It doesn't mean now you're going to transfer those buzzwords onto your document. So you want to tell the difference first and then now focus on the keywords and bring them to your document. It will make your document ATS friendly. Like I mentioned before, ATS is the automated tracking system. Okay, let's keep going. What do you think is the most important thing to remember when writing a resume and a CV? Always remember the job posting. That's what I wish to really emphasize. You want to make sure that you are responding to the needs from the job posting. If they say they want somebody with project management skills, you want to think about everything you have done that shows project management and bringing onto the document. You are personalizing every application to respond to a specific job posting. So that is something that I would insist on there. What can a person do to impress the hiring manager with the resume? Apart from bringing their names. In fact, I've spoken with managers who say, if I don't see my name on the cover letter, I don't read it. And those managers, they actually make sure their names appear somewhere on the job posting. So if a name appeared on the job posting, do not ignore that name. You know, sometimes they say, for more details, reach out to Sarah at sarah@email.com. You know, make sure you are taking advantage of those names because you're going to use that name several times. The first time you use that name is on the cover letter to please Sarah. Number two, you will use that name. I'm the type that really believes in proactive job search. You know, there's the traditional job search and there's proactive job search. So the traditional job search is where you wait for a job to be posted, then you apply, and then you wait to be invited for an interview, then you go for interview. If things go well, you get hired. Proactive is where you don't wait, you go for it. And that is what I like to do personally. So when you see that name, Sarah, you're going to use it on your cover letter. But after application, I always say the day you send in your application, contact Sarah and tell Sarah, hey, I just applied for this position. I'm so excited because I have 1, 2, 3 skills that you're looking for. So that is another way you're going to use Sarah's name. And by the way, Sarah is an example. So if there's any Sarah in the house, I don't even know you, but I'm just using the name. I like the name. So you want to do that with the name that you're given. And then maybe one day you go for an interview and Sarah is one of the people in the panel. You will again send a thank you email to Sarah. So that name is a name that you will be using severally together with the email. So you want to keep that name as well. I see a question here. How can I bring some personality into my application? Something like empathy or humor. Interesting. You can bring humor, you can bring personality, if in your cover letter for sure. I always say the first paragraph is where you are going to set the tone of your application. The first line of the first paragraph, really. Some people go with, I hereby submit my application for this and that. I find that flat and too serious. You can be more playful with words like, I'm super excited to submit my application, so you can throw in words here and there that bring in your personality, bring in that energy, that bubbliness that you have. So yes, you can actually throw in some of that personality and humor onto your application, especially on the cover letter. Okay, let's keep going. How to determine which information to include on a resume. I think I've talked a lot about that. You determine that through the job posting. Always, in fact, I always say, I'm a bit traditional. I would print out my job posting and highlight the skills they're looking for, put them in yellow, green, or blue, something, so that I'm able to look at those things repeatedly and ensure they're, taken care of on my document. Okay. Okay, how do you write a great resume without experience? We all have experience in some way. So I know people who have just freshly graduated and they feel like, I've never worked, so what do I do? Number one thing I would say, before I even go to that category of people, if you're a student right now and you're a first year, start volunteering somewhere, start doing some part-time somewhere, start, being engaged in some activities somehow, somewhere. Because by the end of the day, somebody will ask you for 2 years experience and they will not care whether you have just freshly graduated or not. So start building those experiences right now. One thing I like about volunteering is because it is treated as a job, just like any other job. And number two, you dictate how much time you're going to donate because it's a donation. So you can decide that, I'm only going to be giving you guys 1 hour every week, So whatever it is that you decide to do, whether it is going to be a survival job or a part-time job somewhere or volunteering or one-off volunteering, maybe there's an event and you're participating on it, there's a way you can gather experience from all those. Now, coming back to this question, how to write a great resume without experience. So as I've said, you actually do have experience somehow. There is no way you do not have any experience, because I've spoken with somebody who was a stay-at-home mom for 3 years. And this stay-at-home mom was like, what do? I graduated and then I started staying home with my little baby. And now is the time I want to go to work, but I do not have any experience. And I said, no, staying at home is an experience, especially because you're taking care of your baby. You're booking appointments with the doctor. You're budgeting. You're literally managing the home. That's an experience worth putting, So it's just all about how do you package this experience. Something I would say is, in applications, don't focus too much on job titles. Focus more on the skills. When you focus on job titles, that's where there's a problem. I have been in a situation where I was asked if I went for an interview and I was asked if I had project management experience. And I said, yes. I've never been hired as a project manager. Neither have I been a project coordinator. But do I have project management experience? Yes, I do. Because my PhD was a project. And so many other projects I do at a personal level. So I have the experience because it involves budgeting, stakeholder relationships, there's a lot of things, communication and everything that is involved in a project, whether it is a construction project or a PhD studies project or whatever thing that you have been doing as a project. Now, at that point, I stopped looking at the job title project manager, but I started looking at skills. And that is where you want to focus on. What are the skills that you have been gaining and making use of? So if you're a student, have you ever been in any committee? Have you ever been involved in any activities in school, students' union activities or club activities or something like that? Or even in the community, have you done something in the community, in your church, in your neighborhood? All those things are experiences. And you want to bring all that experience to the table. So it's all about how you package this experience. That is what will create the difference. Okay? Okay, how to list skills in the resume. There are so many ways for you to list skills. So the first step is to obviously look at the job posting. What are the skills that they are targeting? What are the strongest skills that they need to see on my resume? So once you highlight those skills, you go to your resume, and the first place, obviously, that you want to place your skills is the summary of skills and qualifications section. Now, this section in my type of resume, and by the way, there is no correct or wrong resume. There is no correct or wrong resume. And what I'm sharing now is what works for me, because as a practitioner, I know we all have our unique styles of doing the same thing. So this is my style. Now, I normally don't go for profile statements. And I think there's a question that has something like that where I'll tackle that. So my first section of the resume after your personal information is normally summary of skills and qualifications section. Now, this is the section where you want to use word for word from the job posting. So if they say they want somebody with curriculum and general administration skills, so that is what I'm going to put there with the words that they used. And I'm going to show. So there's a difference between telling and showing. Some people just put a list of bullet points. Curriculum and general administration, leadership and planning, project management, that is telling. Show instead. Show instead of telling. So once you have put their curriculum and general administration, you want to talk about what you have done that shows you have that skill. So these ones, I just threw them there. They might not make sense, but this is just to elaborate on what you want to do. So for example, if they were asking for leadership and planning, I can show that I have the skill by noting down that I collaborated with various practitioners from Canadian universities to ideate, improve, and implement practices for work-integrated learning. So you always want to bring in a statement that shows you have the skill that will set you apart. So anyone can wake up in the morning and just say, I have curriculum designing skills. But what will set you apart is by bringing in what you have done that shows that you have that skill. And that is what I'm demonstrating on this slide. Now, you can choose to have only one bullet point to describe a skill, or you can choose to really focus on showing the different things you've done that demonstrate you have that specific skill. Now, it depends on what you're applying for. If you're applying for a leadership role, you don't want to have one bullet showing that you have leadership. You're applying for a director's position, you need to demonstrate proper leadership. So you want to even have 5 bullets summarizing what you've done in the past that shows you have that leadership skill. If you're applying for some little job, something little as a student that you can hang on to as you're studying, you don't have to go so deep. Just a little something is enough. So you want to lift the skill as it is from the job posting and then now look at your past, your experiences, and lift the things that you've done in the past that demonstrate you have that skill. Okay. Now, what is the other way to show your skills? You can show your skills through accomplishment statements. Now, an accomplishment statement is what you're going to put under experience section. When you're writing accomplishment statements, you need to target it to the job posting. If you look at a job posting, you want to go to the responsibility section where they say the person who will be hired will be responsible for investigating, assessing, coordinating, supervising. You want to pick those words, those action words, especially the words with power, action words. Then you want to bring them onto your resume. It is part of targeting. So if they're looking for somebody who will be investigating, show them that you've already investigated. If they're looking for somebody who will be implementing, show them that you have already implemented. You may have implemented something different, but the action of implementing, that is something that you have. So when you are targeting your resume, the targeting does not end at the summary of skills and qualifications section. The targeting continues throughout the document. You're going to target the summary of skills and qualifications section. You're going to target the accomplishment skills, the accomplishment statements section as well. And then you're going to target education, training, and certifications. If you have first aid certificate, but they're not asking for it, get it out of the way. It doesn't mean you don't have it. It just means you are targeting your resume to suit what they're looking for. They want to look at your resume and the job posting, and they see it is aligning. That is what they want. Okay, let's continue. Sometimes when I talk, I make my eyes large. I hope I don't frighten you. Which resume format is best to use? This is a very interesting question. So we have the chronological type of resume. The emphasis is on the time. That is why it has the name chronological. Everything time. Graduated 2022, 2021, this 2009. There's a lot of that emphasis on a chronological resume. Now, recruiters really like chronological resumes because they're very simple and direct and very easy to understand. The other type of resume is what we call the functional resume. The functional resume is big on the skills. So it doesn't focus so much on dates. And that's why for functional resumes, you can actually get away with when you graduated. If you graduated in 1986, nobody will notice. Nobody will notice because you don't have to put graduated 1986, 1993. They will not see that. So you can get away with it. But it is not the type that recruiters enjoy the most because chronological is simple for them. They like it. Functional is good for you, especially if you want to hide some dates here and there. You know, you want to look young and so you want to actually go for functional. So because there are some good things about chronological and good things about functional, you want to combine the good things together. And that is where we now have the mixed type of resume, combination resume. Now, the combination resume picks the good things about chronological and the good things about functional, puts them together. So the combination resume is the most common type of resume that most people use. Now, back to the question, which resume format is the best to use? I would say it depends on what you really want to showcase. There's no best like for everything. There is a best depending on the position you're applying for and what you really need to showcase. So let's go back to somebody who is just getting into the job market, fresh graduate getting into the job market. In that case, you really don't have nothing much to hide. You graduated in 2022, it's fine. It means you're coming in with fresh ideas, you're fresh, you are energetic and things like that. So it's okay to have that combination resume that gives you an opportunity to still show that freshness in the time, and it also gives you opportunity to showcase the skills. But let's say you've been in the market longer like some of us, and also you're applying for a higher level type of position, director. What do? You want a resume that gives you an opportunity to really show your skills. So you will find yourself on the functional side of things, where you're going to demonstrate skills in details. If you're going to be a CEO, then you need to prove that you have the skills to be a CEO. And to prove that, you need a functional resume for it. So it will depend on what you're applying for and what you really need to showcase in that application. Okay, let's keep going. We have time, we're almost there. What is the best resume layout? Goes back to what you're applying for, and it's the same question as the previous one. Layout here just means how do you organize information in there? So it will take us to types of resumes. So it will go back to what type of job are you applying for? At what level? What do you need to showcase? Where is your emphasis? Is it on the time or is it on the skills? In that case, functional or combination. Let's keep going. The resume is too long and wordy. How to cut it down efficiently? Target it. Simple, 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 target it. There gets to a point where you even leave out some of the experiences. And sometimes I see students and they become very emotionally attached to words on a document. You tell them, delete this, they want to cry. They feel like, but this is when I worked in Sicily. This is when I remember how it was nice. And I'm like, don't get emotionally attached to the words on your resume. Have a master resume where you record everything that happens in your life. But for every job you are applying for, handpick the things you're going to showcase. Everything you put in that resume should be for one reason: convince them to hire you, period. If there's anything that will not convince them to hire you, then it doesn't have room in that resume. That's the only way around it. So make sure that every word in that resume is meant to convince the hiring manager to hire you. I always give an example of myself when I was doing my undergrad. I like free things, to be honest. So there was a free training for choir conducting. I was not doing music and I just saw it was free. So I presented myself as one of the people to be trained. So we were trained how to conduct a choir. I've never seen any choir to conduct. If you hear a choir that is looking for a conductor, let me know. So I have a certificate in conducting in choir, but I've never used it. Now, that is on my master resume because it's a training I went through. But when I applied for a job as a career development specialist, did they ask for that certificate? No, they didn't. So I don't put it there. It's going to be eating up space. So I empty, I remove it. Now, the resume is too long and wordy. What else can you do? I always contract my months. Instead of writing December, I write DEC, especially on the experience section, contracting it into 3 letters, apart from the month of May. Now, some people also put up there, they write email, then they put their email address. Phone, then they put, it is automatic when somebody sees your email, they know it's an email address. You don't have to tell them. Email, phone. So you can remove those things and create room in your document. Okay. What are some examples of good resumes? There's no good or bad resume. It just make sure your resume is serving its purpose. It is organized accordingly, and it is responding to the needs of the job posting. Organized accordingly. My type of resume has only 3 sections: summary of skills and qualifications, education, and professional experience. Education can come before professional experience or after professional experience. It just depends. If you're an international student who doesn't have Canadian experience, it is great to put that education up there so that there's something Canadian at the top. But if you've gathered some good enough experience, then you don't have to do that if you don't feel like, But again, if you look at the job posting and they want some specific education level, they say must be doctorate or must have masters, then you put it up there to show that, so up there here means after the summary of skills section, you put your education so that they see the masters that they are looking for or the PhD that they're looking for. So it just depends on what is required on the job posting, and that is what you want to do up there. Sometimes people ask me, should we add interests and hobbies? What are your thoughts? Can we use the chat box? Should we add interests and hobbies on our resumes? I'm just looking at the chat box if anyone has something to say about that. Interests and hobbies on the resumes? Anyone? Thank you so much. I see a good comment there. Do you also offer workshops for writing statements of diversity and inclusion research? Of course we do that. Of course we do that. But if anyone has a comment on interests and hobbies, I would say if the interests and hobbies will make you get hired, then include them. I see sometimes people when they apply for jobs in, like summer jobs, and the summer job involves hiking, you can now bring in interest hiking, or if you're applying for a job that involves traveling, you can now create an interest section and say traveling, So by the end of the day, you want to be very intentional. You want to be very intentional with every word that you're putting onto your resume. What's a resume summary and when to use it? I am not a big fan of resume summaries. Resume summaries explain who you are, your skills, experiences, and expertise, and it's normally placed at the top, just after your name. The reason why I avoid it is because it is a trap for buzzwords. That's where people say, hardworking, motivated, passionate. Those things are not measurable. And then I also find that most recruiters do not have the luxury of time to read paragraphs. They'd rather deal with bullet points. So I'm not a big fan of resume summaries. I think I will stop after the next two questions because the questions were many. What's a resume objective? Same thing. A resume objective, I think it's profile statement, all those things that people write at the top of the resume immediately after their names. As long as it's gonna be in a paragraph form, I don't go for it because same reason, recruiters don't have the time to read paragraphs. And then those paragraphs are a trap for us. They make us get the temptation to use buzzwords, so I stay away from them. Okay, should it be included a career? Okay, that's sorted. Education. So something I would mention about education and how you can list it on your resume is always go for the year of graduation only. Do not start saying 2006 to 2016. Just put, if you graduated in 2016, that's it, 2016. If you've not graduated, put expected. So if you just started your PhD and you're graduating in 2026, just put expected 2026. Okay. Why does the person need to list his work achievements? Those are accomplishment statements. And somebody has asked here if we do offer workshops for writing statements of diversity and inclusion. Okay, of course we do that. Research statements and teaching philosophies, we do all those. And then for accomplishment statements, that would be a very detailed presentation, but we do that as well. An accomplishment statement shows what you achieved versus what you are hired to do. In most cases, we achieve more than we were hired to do, and that's what recruiters are interested in. What was your achievement? What did you accomplish in your position? So you want to focus on your accomplishments. It actually gives you more weight than when you go for the things that you are asked, you are hired to do. So an accomplishment statement, a good one, starts with a strong verb. You want to stay away from words like worked. You know, when you say worked or when you say taught, you're hiding skills. It's an opportunity for you to showcase skills. When you say, I taught this unit, you're not telling people that you designed a curriculum, you marked exams, you invigilated exams. Sometimes you mentored students or guided students, or you designed activities for the class, So you are running away from showing the nitty-gritties, the details. And those details are what gives you some rewards. So you want to look at the words that you're using, and then a good resume, you will go to the job posting, look at the words they've used on the responsibility section on the job posting, and then bring them to your resume, okay? I beg to stop at that because of time, but do you have any burning questions? Oh, I see some things here. Can we have your email address? Rima, please, I'm okay with you sharing my email address. And you can also get me on LinkedIn. That's my LinkedIn name there. And then curious about any specific advice you may have for academic professorial jobs. Thank you. So for academic positions, you want to start early because you're going to be collecting a lot of documents. One thing I would say is if you have been doing teaching assistantships, you want to be recording everything about your teaching, the number of students, the responses you've been getting from students, if you have been employing some type of teaching to them, some type of teaching style, or if you have some philosophy, start recording them. If students send you messages and, like those messages say, oh, thank you so much, I enjoyed your course today, keep them, because when you will be writing your teaching statements, you're going to bring all that on board. Okay, how important is the reference letter from supervisor for fresh graduate students? It is very, very important. Any kind of reference is very important. I would say that when you're gathering reference, make sure you're gathering from somebody who really, really wants to support you. Because I've seen people who lost opportunities because of the wrong people that were giving references. Otherwise, if you have an opportunity for somebody to reference for you, go for it. Now, something else I would advise you to do today, I challenge you to write something on somebody's LinkedIn. Go to LinkedIn. There is a reference section on LinkedIn. Go and write something about somebody's skill, because now recruiters are on LinkedIn looking for people and they're reading those references. So go and write something about somebody's skills. And when you receive it, write for that person again, because when you go to LinkedIn, there are two columns, given and received. So you want to receive, but you also want to give. So that is a challenge I would like to put out there for everyone in this workshop today. I challenge you to go support somebody else to get a job, go support somebody to get a promotion, go support somebody to grow and motivate them. So write a reference for somebody. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Charlotte, for this wonderful talk. Actually, I have one question. So as a postdoc, is the postdoc as a job experiences, or it's like we should write an education part, because it depends from universities and the countries how it is?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
So where should we put our postdoc experiences, in the job experiences or in education part?
So when it comes to experiences, you want to have an experience section on the CV. Okay, so and the thing is, if you're applying for a job that is research intensive, immediately after education, because on a CV, you want to intentionally have your education up there. So my kind of CV will still have a summary of skills and qualifications, where if you targeted your CV and instead of putting your 30 publications, you only put 15 or 10, you can still put up there and say publication published over 30, you are going to put it up there. After that section, you want to have your education. And also before that, maybe you can have your research interests and things like that. And then if it is a research intensive position, after that education section, you want to say research experience, and then bring everything that is research experience related. And then you can have teaching experience, and then bring everything teaching experience related. You can have leadership experience. It just depends on what type of a job you are applying for. But it's true, you don't want to put education and experience in one part. Separate them. Okay?
Yeah, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
I don't think so. I have actually one also, how it's important to put like publications in resume, because you don't have a lot of place, and sometimes you don't have even any place for the publication list. So is it important, or it depends for the position?
It depends on the job posting. If they say they really want to see a demonstration of some of your publications, you can create a section for publications. Otherwise, you can put it up on the summary of skills section and just say publications, and then you explain and say published over 40, you know, or conducted over 40 publications or something or in biotechnology or something like that. So when you put it there, they will ask for it at some point. They say, oh, we also noticed that you indicated you have over 40 publications. Where are they? Then you can now display them. You can copy paste for them the links and etc. But again, these are things you need to put on your LinkedIn as well, because LinkedIn has space. You can bring all those publications and have them on the LinkedIn, so that when somebody goes to your LinkedIn profile, they can see it. Don't forget that LinkedIn is an online resume as well. So you want to make sure that it is updated and it has some of the information that you might not be able to forward in a 2-page document. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we are exactly on the time. So again, thank you, Charlotte, for this amazing presentation and to be with us today. And also thank you all the participants for joining us today. And if you have additional questions, you can contact us, or you can write directly to Charlotte. I send it via email in our chat. And also you can contact Charlotte by LinkedIn. And later we will provide you also with recording of the webinar, so you can each time check again and to see if you missed something, some parts. So thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Bye. Enjoy.
Bye-bye, Charlotte.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.